What if I told you that most of the money you think exists actually doesn't? Not in the way you imagine, at least. Picture this. You check your bank app. You see a balance. You feel safe. That number feels solid, like cash locked in a vault with your name on it. But here's the uncomfortable truth. If everyone tried to withdraw their money at the same time, the system would collapse within days. And no, this isn't a conspiracy theory. This is literally how modern banking is designed. Not understanding this puts you at a disadvantage, because money shapes almost every decision in your life, whether you notice it or not. Here's the question most people never ask. If banks don't just store money for you, how do they actually make money? The answer sounds boring at first, but once you truly get it, you'll never look at your savings account the same way again. And right about now, you might be thinking, wait, are you saying my money isn't really there? Hold that thought. There's a catch, and it's bigger than you think. Most people imagine a bank like a massive safe. You deposit money, they lock it up, end of story. But a bank isn't a safe. It's more like a water pump. Money flows in, money flows out, and the bank survives by controlling the pressure. This system is called fractional reserve banking, which sounds complex, but the idea is shockingly simple. Imagine you run a small lemonade stand. 10 people give you $10 each for coupons, so now you're holding $100. You quickly realize something important. Not everyone comes back at the same time to redeem their lemonade. Most people show up on different days. So instead of keeping all $100 in your cash box, you keep maybe $10 just in case, and you lend the other $90 to your friend, who promises to pay you back with interest. That's fractional reserve banking. The bank keeps only a fraction of deposits as cash reserves and lends out the rest. Here's the pattern interrupt. When the bank lends out that $90, it doesn't disappear from your account. You still see your full balance. And the person who borrowed the money now also has money to spend. One deposit just created two claims on the same cash. That's not magic. That's the core engine of modern finance. This is where things get wild. Let's say you deposit $1,000 into a bank. If the reserve requirement is 10%, the bank keeps $100 and lends out $900. That $900 gets deposited into another bank, which keeps $90 and lends out $810. This process repeats again and again. By the end of it, your original $1,000 has turned into several $1,000s circulating through the economy. This doesn't mean banks are printing physical cash. They're creating digital money, backed by trust and accounting entries. The system works because people don't all demand their cash at once. And here's the catch. Banks make money on the interest from loans, not from holding your deposits. Your savings account earns you maybe 1 or 2% if you're lucky. Meanwhile, the bank lends your money out at 5, 7, sometimes 20%. That gap is profit. Now ask yourself this uncomfortable question. If banks can create money by lending, who really controls how much money exists in the economy? Exactly, not you. Not even the government directly. It's a partnership between central banks and private banks. And you're living inside that system, whether you like it or not. Let's jump back to 2008. Housing prices were rising, loans were easy, and banks were lending aggressively. Why? Because more loans meant more profit. But there was a flaw hiding in plain sight. Many of those loans were given to people who couldn't realistically repay them. As long as housing prices kept rising, no one cared. The moment prices stopped rising, the illusion cracked. People defaulted. Banks panicked. Trust evaporated. Suddenly, everyone wanted liquidity at the same time. Remember how banks only keep a fraction of deposits? That became a massive problem. Governments had to step in and inject money just to keep the system alive. Not because banks were evil villains, but because the entire economy depends on this fragile structure. Here's the pattern interrupt most people miss. When banks fail, they're often rescued. When individuals fail, they're told to be more responsible. That alone should change how you think about risk, debt, and security. Fractional reserve banking affects you, even if you never think about banks. It influences inflation, because increasing the money supply reduces the purchasing power of each dollar over time. It affects housing prices, because easy credit pushes prices higher. It even shapes your career, because businesses rely on loans to expand, hire, and survive. This is why money sitting in a savings account slowly loses value. The system rewards those who understand leverage and assets, not those who simply save cash. That doesn't mean debt is good or bad by default. It means debt is a tool, and like any tool, it can build a house or destroy one. So here's a question worth pausing on. If money is constantly being created through loans, is working harder alone enough to get ahead? Or do you need to understand the system you're working inside? Once you understand how banks actually make money, you stop seeing money as a static thing. You start seeing it as a flow of trust, incentives, and risk. Banks aren't evil masterminds, but they're not vaults either. They're profit-driven machines operating on confidence. And confidence, once broken, changes everything. The real takeaway isn't to fear banks. It's to stop being blind to how they work. When you understand the game, you make better decisions. You question debt. You think differently about saving, investing, and long-term security. You stop assuming the number on your screen is the whole story. If this shifted how you see money even a little, drop a comment and tell me what surprised you most. Like the video if you want more deep dives into how the financial system really works, and subscribe so you don't miss the next one. Because once you see the machine behind the curtain, you can't unsee it.